a remake at all. It's just we are going back to the novel and bring to the screen what I've felt, the images I saw when I read the book. That's what I'm going back to the book, basically.
Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's novel, Dune, was one of the best sci-fi epics of the century. While the movie received almost universal praise for its stunning visuals and immersive soundscapes, some critics found a problem with its focus on world-building over character development. But what they fail to see is that world-building is in fact a character in and of itself. World-building is the foundation the plot is built on. People need to feel like they're entering a fully formed, cohesive universe with its own set of rules and customs. It's the only way to suspend their disbelief and fully invest in the story. Even better, world-building usually provides a rich source of conflict and tension for the characters. Think of Game of Thrones, where the constant power struggles between the kingdoms are as much a product of the world as they are of the characters themselves. Or maybe the Harry Potter series, where the magical world and its history play a central role in the story's arc. The same holds true for Dune. The world of Arrakis, with its treacherous deserts, scarce resources, and political intrigue, is just as much a character as any of the humans, a harsh and unforgiving place, but also one that holds the promise of great power and riches. But what about character development? Doesn't that matter just as much? Absolutely. But a character doesn't exist in a vacuum. The people we meet in a story are shaped by the world around them just as much as they shape it. And while some characters may take a back seat to the world building at times, that doesn't mean they're not fully realized or compelling. Look at Chani, a fierce warrior, just as much a product of her world as any of the other characters. She didn't have as much screen time as Paul or his family, but her presence is felt throughout the story. Dune is a behemoth of a novel, and adapting this tale for the big screen has been a colossal challenge. The first attempt was made in 1974 by Alejandro Jodorowsky, who assembled a team of talented artists including H.R. Giger, who would later design the iconic xenomorph in the movie Alien. But despite Jodorowsky's vision, his attempt at adapting Dune ultimately never reached production. Hollywood came knocking again in 1976. This time it was Ridley Scott. Scott had big plans for the story, envisioning it as a two-part epic that would be one of the biggest film projects ever undertaken. But after 7 months of pre-production, Scott dropped out due to budgetary concerns and creative differences with the studio. The project eventually landed in the lap of David Lynch. His adaptation, released in 1984, was stunning and actually managed to capture the grandeur and scope of the novel. But it was also a commercial flop, and Lynch himself disavowed the final product, citing studio interference and creative compromises.
Because I did not have final cut on that film, total creative control I didn't have. So the film is not the film that I would have made had I had that final control.
Of course, when it comes to adapting books, there are countless potential pitfalls to avoid. But Villeneuve didn't just sidestep these obstacles. He learned from past mistakes and crafted a stunning adaptation of Dune that feels epic, intimate, grandiose, and nuanced. But to bring such a sprawling story to life, Villeneuve had to make tough choices about what to include and what to leave out. But what's most impressive is his attention to the world-building elements, creating a vivid, immersive universe that feels real and fantastical. But I think what sets Villeneuve's version apart is the sheer scope of his vision. From the towering sandworms to the intricate architecture, every aspect of the world feels meticulously crafted and thought out. The attention to detail is truly awe-inspiring, and it's clear every design choice was made with care and intentionality. I do understand where the critics are coming from. After all, in a story like this, it's easy to get lost in the details of the world and forget about the people who inhabit it. But I think that's a narrow way of looking at it. Arrakis, with its brutal desert terrain and sandworms, is as much a character as the film's hero Paul, as well as the different factions fighting for power on Arrakis, the Freemen, the Harkonnens, and the Emperor's cronies. Looking at it this way, Dune isn't just a story about characters, it's a story about the world. The The characters are, of course, molded by their surroundings, and the surroundings are shaped by the characters. It's a sort of complex, symbiotic relationship that adds a lot of depth to the story. So, in Dune, the characters are shaped so much by their environment that it's hard to separate the two. Paul is a product of his upbringing as a member of a noble house in the Imperium. But he's also a product of his time on Arrakis, where he learns to survive in the harsh desert and becomes embroiled in the political intrigue of the planet's various factions. This is why Villeneuve's decision to emphasize world building over character development, at least in the first film, is not a weakness, but a strength. Allows him to create a fully realized, immersive universe that feels like it's been around for ages. And by splitting the story into two parts, he can delve deeper into the characters and their motivations in the sequel, building on the foundation he's laid in the first film and introducing new characters and factions. But that wouldn't have been possible if he hadn't laid the groundwork first with world building. It's what I love about Dune. It's not just a story, it's a universe. A rich, complex tapestry of characters, cultures, and environments that all come together to create something really unique.